How can you recognize a nice guy? One of the first clues is that inappropriate smile. The smile about so many things, they go, why are you smiling? We're just sitting here. They've learned, oh, if I smile, people will like me. If I smile, I'll be non-threatening. If I smile, nobody will get mad at me. They can actually say you can look at photos and tell when a person's trying to smile for a camera versus just happy in the picture, because a trained person can tell there's different face muscles when your brain's saying smile versus when the smile is a natural expression of what you feel on the inside.
So welcome to the podcast. As you can see, we have got a slightly different setup today. And I'm really excited because we have Dr. Robert Glover tuning in from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico at his beautiful home, beautiful office there. And this is a very exciting interview for me because Dr. Glover had such a massive impact on my life. He, when I was first coming up, and actually before I even started in the coaching industry, his book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, which pretty much has a cult following at this point, and I don't know if you expected that to happen, but it has a cult following, hit me so hard. I remember reading it, and I don't remember who recommended it, how it ended up in my hands, but it hit me so hard, it triggered me. I was such an extreme nice guy that I went home and yelled at my girlfriend because all this anger came out of me.
Good strategy, yeah.
Yeah. I just lost it. It triggered all this. And then I apologized to her, and I slid the book in front of her and showed her what I'd been reading, what caused it. And she laughed. She thought it was funny. She thought it was awesome, by the way. She was really happy that I showed this anger, oddly enough. And I was like, well, what? I don't get it. And as I dug deeper into the book, I realized, there was something I always said is I like to make people happy. That's who I am. And as I read the book, I realized that's not who I am. That's the validation I was chasing. And so since then, that book began a massive transformation. Your work, David Data's work early on, had a huge impact. And then I recommended it to almost pretty much every client that's ever come through my programs years later as I got into the embodiment coaching. And it's still probably at the top of my list of book recommendations. So first off, I want to thank you for that.
Right. If I get some credit in who you are today and the impact you're making on the world, I'm honored because you're one of my heroes. I love what you're doing out there in the world.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That means a lot to me, actually, too. And I love that I've had you speak at some of my events in the past. And but with that said, what I want to do, I want to start with a quote from your book. It's really a quote. It's I guess you could call it. It's a quote from somebody you worked with, and I think this really illustrates what we're going to talk about today. And I want to dive into what the nice guy is, and really see if we can hit it home right from the beginning, so we can really take this conversation deep. And I think I'm sure you'll recognize this.
Yeah, what quotes are you going to read? I was on an interview yesterday when a guy said, this quote changed my life, and it wasn't anything that I expected. So I'm anticipating what's the quote.
Well, the quote is not you; it's one of your clients, and so I'll read it. But I think it sums everything up. I'm a chameleon, revealed Todd, a 30-year-old single nice guy. I will become whatever I believe a person wants me to be in order to be liked. With my smart friends, I act intelligent and use a big vocabulary. Around my mother, I look like the perfect, loving son. With my dad, I talk sports. With the guys at work, I cuss and swear. Whatever it takes to look cool. Underneath it all, I'm sure who I really am, or any of them would like me to be. Did I say that right? I'm
not sure who I really am.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you for remembering. I'm not sure who I really am or who anybody would like me to be. If I can figure out what people want me to be, I'm afraid I will be all alone. If I can't figure out who people will want me to be, I'm sure I'll be all alone.
You're leaving out the key words, Brian.
The funny thing is, I feel all alone most of the time anyways. That summed me up perfectly when I was a nice guy. And I think that sums up a lot of what nice guys are going through.
Well, as you say, that's a quote of one of my clients. And one of the things I've said that No More Mr. Nice Guy is autobiographical. It tells my story. I just used other people to tell my story. And yeah, that was me too. The chameleon. Just, kind of lick your finger, hold it up, which way's the wind blowing, and become that so that I would be liked and loved. And you know what? And not having any consciousness at all that that's what I was doing. That was just a reflexive, habitual thing that in every environment, read the people, read the environment. What do I need to do to make sure I get approval and or don't get rejected or get any kind of negative response from people? So that, that is such a common nice guy pattern. And when people ask me to define the nice guy, those two components are part of that definition. That a nice guy is a man, could be a boy, a teenager, a man. It could be a girl. There's nice guy girls out there. Maybe they existed before nice guys. A lot of us got trained by our nice guy mothers to be nice. But is a person who inaccurately internalized an emotional belief about ourselves. That somehow I'm bad, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, I'm defective. And that's called toxic shame. And that's at the core of nice guy syndrome. And most people have toxic shame. And we all deal with it in our own unique ways. And for nice guys, two of the ways we tend to deal with it is, first one, be the chameleon. Become what we think other people want us to be liked, to be loved, to get our needs met. Second thing we do is hide anything about us, our feelings, our wants, our needs, our sexuality. Hide that if it might get a negative reaction from anybody. So that example that you read from Todd is such a fairly universal trait of trying to become and trying to hide, all because on the inside, at an emotional level, not always at a cognitive or intellectual level, sometimes, but at an emotional level, this belief that I'm bad, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, I'm not okay the way I am. And that's usually not even, as I said, even an intellectual, verbal state. It's an emotional state wired into a really deep, primitive part of our brain that we've been carrying around maybe since we were just a few days, few weeks, few months old. So it's powerful. It's deep. And that's why it can be so unconscious and reflexive, and we're just thinking, this is just how you do it without it ever being a conscious decision that this is a good idea.
That's what you just said is so powerful, because at my core, and I would not have admitted to it in the beginning, and I think so many don't admit to this, and that there was a part of your book that really hit home for me was when you said every nice guy has, at his core, has shame or hates himself. I am bad. I think that's the perfect sentence.
Yeah.
And he either knows it and tries to hide it, or he even hides it from himself, I think is how you said it. And I run into a lot of nice guys when I'm working, and that's why I haven't read your book, because a lot of them are even hiding it from themselves.
I was, because what I discovered when I started working on me, and how that began is my then wife, my second wife, said, everybody thinks you're such a nice guy, but you're not. You can be mean, you can be hurtful, you can be passive aggressive, you embarrass me, you don't follow through, I can't trust you, you need help. And I thought, you're the one's unhappy all the time. I'm always trying to make you happy. It's never good enough, but okay, I'll go get help. And luckily, I landed in some good places, that a 12-step group, therapist, later a men's group that was led by a therapist who had written some books on sexual shame. And I really began to see that shame. And that first 12-step group I landed in was just perfect, because I started going, and every week I just share something about me that I never told anybody. A thought, a fear, a past action, an impulse, something dark about I just started sharing stuff, and then that continued in therapy, and that continued in the men's group. And that felt liberating. I'd never done that. I grew up with a critical, angry father, so, hide any faults or flaws from him, with this codependent, needy mother, so try to be the good boy, good man for her. I grew up in fundamental Christianity, so, hide any faults or, sins or anything, as if God couldn't see them anyway, but hide them from everybody else. I grew up during the angry feminism of the 60s and 70s, that every man's a rapist, an erection's a sign of aggression. I heard those things growing up, and I thought, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy that the women complained about. Oh, the men only want one thing. Well, it's not me. I don't want to be. So I was hiding so much of me, and I didn't know it. And I remember when it comes to this idea of shame or toxic shame. Again, early in my marriage to my second wife, I'm grateful to my wife. She was really into self-help and therapy, and kind of kicked my ass into therapy. And she'd be reading John Bradshaw's Healing the Shame That Binds You. And she'd be reading this going, oh, this is you, this is so much you. And I go, what? And she'd read this stuff about toxic shame. And, I already had a PhD in marriage and family therapy at that time. And I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. I didn't really even understand what it was. And I really didn't even see how it applied to me. I thought, well, that applies to you. You're the one that hates yourself. I don't hate myself. And so one of the greatest compliments people have given me about No More Mr. Nice Guy is Robert, thank you for the way you explain toxic shame. So apparently I got a handle on it somewhere along the line. But what I came to find out is that there are two types of nice guys. See, I thought every nice guy maybe was just like me. Had the same family experiences, same dad issues, same mom issues, same, how it showed up in the world issues. But we're not. We're all our own flavor. We're all different, but there's certain commonalities. Shame being one of those things, the becoming what other people want's one of them, the hiding the things. Excuse me. But this whole thing, around the shame, what I realized that there's two kinds of nice guys. One is I call the I'm so good nice guy, which was me. That is, I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever be. Why doesn't everybody, be a nice guy like me? Be, kind and generous and not angry and, go along to get along and all that stuff. And I thought I had this bank account built up of all the good stuff I do. Nobody should ever not like me, ever be mad at me, ever criticize me or, accuse me, because I'm good. Now, my shame was really tucked away, really deep inside in this airtight, locked compartment that I had no conscious awareness of. Truly subconscious, unconscious. But here I was, my behavior was showing what was hidden in my unconscious, i.e., be good, be good, be good. Show everybody you're good. Do good. Be different from father, be different from... Why would I be driven to be good, to do good, to see that as my identity if there wasn't something somewhere saying, you're not, you're bad, you're not good enough, you're unlovable? I wouldn't be doing it. So, my world paradigm and roadmap reflected the unconscious shame that I wasn't even aware of. I had no sense of my shame. Now, I thought all nice guys maybe were like that until I realized, listening to enough nice guy stories over time as I was, learning about me and writing the book and leading No More Mr. Nice Guy groups. I was leading like 5 of them a week back when I was in private practice in Seattle. And men were telling their stories, and I thought, well, there's guys that aren't like me. They tell stories of, being a fuck-up as a kid, getting in trouble all the time, getting punished, getting kicked out of class, getting sent to the principal, getting beat by their fathers, using drugs and alcohol at an early age, getting sexual at an early age, getting expelled, getting thrown in jail, being addicts. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound anything like me. I mean, their shame was right up here at the surface. They knew how bad they were. Now, I call them the I'm so bad nice guy because their shame is right here. And at some point, these nice guys had to come to Jesus meeting. They got in the military and got straightened out, or they got sober and got straightened out, or they met a woman or had a kid or had a family member die, or finally they just grew up, and said, I can't keep living like this. I got to change. And so they've worked really hard to be nice guys, to be the opposite of what they saw themselves as a younger man. But their shame is so close to the surface, they live in a constant fear that they're just 3 seconds away from being found out in any relationship, that any person they're with, any woman they're with, is give them just a few moments, they're going to see right through them and see just how bad they are. Now, whereas the I'm so good nice guys walking around going, everybody's going to love me. Everybody's going to think I'm, how come everybody doesn't love me? How come all these women don't want to be my girlfriend? That doesn't make sense, because, we think we're so great. We think we're so amazing. Both men are driven by shame, one's aware of it, the other's oblivious to it. And for both men to really do the recovery from nice guy syndrome, to heal, they've got to access the shame and start revealing it to safe people, letting it come up and get released, and not packing it around, inside of us, being afraid of being found out, and to get more accurate feedback as to who we really are. We're not bad. We're not defective. We're not unlovable. And everything that we might think makes us bad often is just like really normal stuff that we think, I can't let the world see that. So this process of the shame, whether it's hidden way deep inside or right up here at the surface, we still have to find safe people, a coach, therapist, 12-step group, men's group, some place where we go practice revealing ourselves so we can learn to be ourselves and not be that reflexive, instinctive chameleon.
This is fascinating because, when you talk about the second nice guy, I was definitely the first, like you. I was the one who packed it away at a young age, and I was going to be perfect my whole life. I was going to do everything perfect. I wasn't going to piss anybody off, and I would have swore I was happy too. That was the other part. And I see this a lot. Is that no, I'm happy. Everything's good, and this like maniacal smiles on my face, and I'm walking around. No, I'm great. And I remember one of my teachers saying, "Then wipe that fake smile off your face and see how you feel." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm happy." And it took me actually weeks before I would even consider feeling what was under the smile and stopping it. And oh my God, the pain that was under there.
And, that's one of the ways, guys. I'll get asked, well, how can you recognize a nice guy? And one of the first clues is that inappropriate smile. The smile about so many things. They go, "Why are you smiling? We're just sitting here." And it's not because they're just bubbling, with happiness. It's because they've learned, oh, if I smile, people will like me. If I smile, I'll be non-threatening. If I smile, nobody will get mad at me. So it's just a strategy to try to manage the world, but it's unconscious. We don't even realize that until, like you say, you consciously start noticing how your face feels when you're putting that fake, like you're smiling for the camera. They can actually say you can look at photos and tell when a person's trying to smile for a camera versus just happy in the picture, because a trained person can tell there's different face muscles when your brain's saying smile versus when the smile is a natural just expression of what you feel on the inside.
And I think people feel it too, whether they consciously know or not. They feel the fake smile, and after a while, it's like, what are you feeling under that? God, it's hard to hang out with you because I want some honesty. I want some authenticity out of you, which is something that we as nice guys don't even know, right? We don't know what we're feeling. And so this brings me to the next question is I see a lot of nice guys say, you ask them, because you in your book, you say, well, what really makes you happy? What are your wants, needs, and desires? But then I run into these nice guys and they say, their first answer, and mine was this too, is, well, making other people happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you go, well, what do you want to do regardless of other? It's like this weird question that's foreign to them. Do you experience this a lot, or did you experience this yourself?
Yeah, I'm smiling, and it's not a fake smile. This was true for me, and with so many nice guys. Back, 20 years ago, when that's all I did, when I was in private practice, day in and day out, sitting and listening and talking with nice guys individually, in couples therapy, in groups. And I'd break it down to guys. I said, well, let's talk about your needs and wants, because nice guys have been hiding their needs and wants because they internalized a belief at a young age. I'm bad for having needs and wants. People are going to get mad at me, or everybody else's needs are more important than mine, or I can only get my needs met if I give to other people first. I mean, just a lot of distortion nice guys have around needs and wants. And let's talk about needs and wants and making your needs a priority. And guys will either get this deer in the headlight look like, holy fuck, I can't make my needs a priority. That'll make me bad. That'll make me selfish. That'll make people hate me. That'll make me like my dad. That'll make me like all the bad men I hear women complain about. Or I get a blank look, kind of like, what are you talking about? What are needs and wants? And I remember I'd give guys a legal pad, this big yellow pad and a pen. I said, let's just begin by just writing down some needs and wants we can start paying attention to. They sit there and stare at the paper. No clue. Don't even know where to start. So, it's been so long since they even valued themselves in any significant way, because we've been, valuing everybody else. I think I say this in No More Mr. Nice Guy, a personal example that I think I've pretty much let go of the embarrassment of it, but it embarrassed me for a while, because I remember telling my wife, it was my second wife, before, I got the big stick upside the head that, you're not such a nice guy, you need help. I remember that my sexual experience with her, I was just true blue codependent nice guy. I just wanted to please her. I just wanted her to be happy. I just wanted her to have her multiple orgasms and for her to think I was an amazing lover, right? And I remember telling her, I don't care if I ever come, as long as you're happy. And, kind of after I got into some personal recovery and put that in a context, and I thought, I don't know if that's sick or sad or both, that, and it's okay to want your partner to enjoy sex, right? It's okay that they have a good time and enjoy it. I hope you do want that. But when you say, I don't care if I ever come, it's just as, I got no need, I got no want. Only thing I'm getting out of this is the external validation of you thinking I'm amazing, right? And so to tell nice guys, okay, let's make you a priority. Let's focus on your needs, your wants. Let's put you first. And they go, that'll make me selfish. And I go, okay, when I look up selfish in the dictionary, I want to see your picture. And, I said, well, let's redefine that. Let's call this a healthy self-interest, because you cannot love anybody more than you love yourself, and you can't let anybody else love you more than you love yourself. Self-love is the standard of all love. And, which goes contrary to what we get taught in religion and family and culture. Oh, everybody else, don't be selfish, put everybody else first. Other people, come before you. No, if you don't put you first, you got nothing to give. Anything you give is coming from an empty bucket, and it is codependent in nature. You're giving to get. And that's why I talk about covert contracts in No More Mr. Nice Guy, of this way that nice guys give to other people, hoping to get something back in return, rather than giving to themselves and asking people to give to them and then giving from that overflow.
Yeah, that's there was one sentence you just said in there. It was so beautiful because, I can't imagine a woman enjoying sex if you make a statement like that. Like, how can she enjoy sex if you're not enjoying sex? It's like, you have all the fun and I'm just here to serve you. And,
I'm just a human vibrator,
Yeah.
I'm just a
nobody home in
machine.
here.
Yeah. Just plug me in,
The whole point of a relationship is she wants to be in relationship with you. Otherwise she can just get a robot or a sex doll. But you said something there. You can't love anybody more than you love yourself. Or did I say it right? Yeah, you can't love anybody.
And you can't let anybody love you more than you. Yeah, you can't let anybody love you more than you love yourself. And you can't love anybody more than you love yourself.
That's the one, yeah.
It's math. It's pure math.
If you have no relationship with yourself, how can you truly have a relationship with anybody else? It's a beautiful statement when you think about it at a deep level.
Well, and here's the thing. We all know this. We all do. And because here's how I know it. No matter what culture you grew up in, we've probably all heard of something, along the lines we might call the golden rule or something like that. And, whether you grew up Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever, we kind of have the same principle. And, as you probably know, I was a minister in years past. I have 2 degrees in religion, grew up fundamental Christian. I'm not religious now. But there's a line in the Bible that most of us have heard, whether you grew up religious or not. And that's when the Jewish scholars came to Jesus and said, what's the greatest law? They had lots of laws, laws upon laws upon laws. And Jesus said, well, that's simple. Love God with all your heart. And he said, second law is just like it. So that means it's the same. Love your neighbor as yourself. All right, love God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, I think what he was basically saying, there's no separate self, that God, self, and other are all one. But that freaks out some people if you say that. No, you can't say things like that. But I think that's what he was saying. But he gave the standard for love. And whether it's loving God or loving your neighbor, i.e., everybody that's not you, in terms of a separate self, dualism identity, he said the standard is love your neighbor as you love yourself. That means the standard of all love is self-love. And again, the math is pretty simple. How could you love another person more than you love yourself? Mathematically, you can't do that. You can't give something you don't have. How can you let somebody love you more than you love yourself? Well, if you only think you're this lovable and somebody tries to love you at this level, you won't let them. You'll put up your guard. You'll push them away. You'll sabotage. You go, oh, no. You're the only one that's supposed to come here, not me, right? Only you get to have orgasms. We won't let anybody love us more. Well, we'll make sure that we love people at the level we love ourselves, and we only let people love us at the level we love ourselves. So the key of us truly being able to love and receive love, which is what we all crave, is to love ourselves, to work at loving ourselves. Now, that often is perplexing to most of us. Oh, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? And the way that you do it, I mean, the way that child psychologists teach us, the way that Jesus even said it in the Bible, you do it by giving to yourself, by treating yourself well. So, for example, it's as simple as, I wear something to track my sleep. I'm in bed. I try to be in bed by a certain time every night, get a certain amount of sleep. That's loving. I've been tracking macros now for 3 or 4 months and tracking my protein and what I eat and my calories. I'm as lean as I've ever been in the last 25 years. That's self-love. I'm eating healthy. I've been getting to the gym with regularity. I'm working out. I'm doing 30 minutes of zone 2 cardio a day, minimum, because I love myself. I get up every morning and meditate and do my morning pages because that communicates that I'm lovable. I'm worth something. I take Nala for a walk with my wife. That's loving to myself, to Nala, and my wife. I enjoy being out in nature as we walk. I connect with my friends. I just do things that are good for me, right? And that implies I'm worth something. Why would I get enough sleep? Why would I eat healthy? Why would I exercise? Why would I meditate? Why would I spend time with friends? Why would I spend time with my wife? Why would I do these things I'm doing with you, if not out of genuinely being good to me? Is self-care. And the more I take good care of myself, the more my bucket is full and the more I understand what love looks like. Scott Peck, in the book Road Less Traveled, have your people Google Scott Peck's definition of love. And it's basically the will and action, so intention and action, to act in one's own or another's, he says spiritual growth, but it just could be best interest. Acting in your own or another person's best interest. So it's through doing. It's through doing good things to yourself, doing good things for other people. That's love. When Jesus was having another conversation, we're trying not to make this too biblical, but Jesus was having another conversation where he said something like, these people were saying, oh, I'm so good, I'm so spiritual, I'm so religious. And he said, well, I don't see you actually giving to the poor or feeding the hungry or helping the down and trodden. And he said, if you do that to others, you do it to me. He goes, well, when have we seen you poor or downtrodden or helpless? And he says, whenever you do it for anybody. Again, he's teaching that non-duality, God, self, other. Oh, they're all the same. He says, so he said, basically, genuine, caring, giving is what love is. Giving to self, giving to others. That's how you learn to love yourself, and that's how you love others, and that's how you let them love you, is by letting them give to you. Nice guys are terrible receivers. We don't let people give to us. We don't let our needs and wants be known. Every woman I've ever been with says, Robert, you're difficult to give to. Right? I've heard that enough times. I assume there's truth in it, right? And I've had to consciously let women give to me. I'll be eating dinner with my family, and, I don't have a fork. I'll get up to go get myself a fork. My dad would have just said, Mrs. Glover, get me a fork. I don't want to be like that. So I get up to get my fork, and my wife says, where are you going? I go, I need a fork. She goes, I'll get you one. No, I can get one. I don't want to be like Dad. I don't want to be like the asshole, But what I've realized is that's how she wants to love me. She wants to get up and get me a fork so I don't have to, and that's her gift of love. She's even told me as much. She said, Robert, you do everything. You pay for everything. You've blessed my life, the life of my children. I have everything I want. Let me do things for you. Let me show my love to you in these ways. So lots of times I'll be doing an interview like this. It wouldn't surprise me. I've got French doors on my office here, and my wife will come sneaking in and put a glass of coconut water on the corner of my desk. And that's her doing. That's her saying, I love you. I value you. And you know what? I enjoy every moment of drinking that glass of coconut water because it's her expression of love to me. I let the love in.
I think what you just said there is huge, because nice guys are terrible givers for that very reason, because they're not giving from any abundance, right? They're not receiving, so they can't.
We're caretakers, actually, rather than caring givers. And the way I distinguish that is giving or caring is giving what people need to receive, and is giving from an overflow and abundance. It's not giving from our own empty bucket. Oh, you'll like me, you'll value me, you'll think. And it's giving what they really need. If they really are hungry, it's giving them food. If they really are downtrodden, it's giving them a helping hand. Caretaking is giving from an empty bucket, and I'm going to give to you what I need to give to you so that you'll think I'm all right and value me and love me in return, or give to me back in return. It's the covert contracts of the nice guy syndrome.
It's an interesting thing you just said, too, the giving and the receiving, because I've been saying lately, it hit me one day, I thought about the law of polarity because you brought it up, and I thought, giving and receiving happen at the same exact time. They're synonymous, two sides of a coin. You can't give without receiving. You can't receive without giving. So therefore, receiving is giving and giving is receiving, if done, like you said, by letting them in. And to me, that's a huge realization. Once I realized that, I was like, God, I got to let people give to me.
Yeah.
Because I did the same thing you did. Huh?
Well, I'll give you a couple examples of how this really hit me. I remember when I was dating, in my late 40s and 50s, I dated a woman who I met her when she sold me shoes at Nordstrom's. And so she worked in retail fashion sales. She had all of her life. And as we started dating, one time she came over to my house, my apartment, and I'd done my laundry. And I had a studio apartment, and I just had left my clothes on my couch. I was going to fold them, but I just took them out of the dryer so they wouldn't be wrinkled. And she comes in and starts folding my laundry for me. I said, stop, don't do that. I didn't leave that out for you to come over and fold it. She goes, oh, I like doing it. And she goes, I'm good at it. I mean, she got paid for folding clothes, basically. And so she goes, and I like doing it. So she starts folding my clothes, and she says, you can put them in nice stacks and put them on the corner of my bed. And she said, I won't put them away for you. And I go, I'm not going to put them away either. I'm going to leave that stack of clothes right there as a reminder I'm loved. All right, I said that to her. And you know what? I thought, from then on out, when I did my laundry, I left it on the couch for when she'd come over, because I realized it was a way she could show love to me. And it was more than that. It was a way I had to practice letting somebody do something for me that I could do myself. But she, if I'd done it myself, she would actually felt hurt. How come you didn't leave your clothes for me to fold? I would have robbed her of the pleasure of folding my clothes. I know that sounds insignificant, maybe, but another thing, as I was dating, I came out of a marriage with a partner who did not like sex. She pretty much announced that regularly. Not before we got married, after we got married. And so after about 14 years of no sex, I got a lot of women who just wanted to have sex. And I was like, what planet have I landed on? And what I soon realized, a lot of these women took pride in their blowjobs. They gave good blowjobs. That, they felt good about, how good they were. And because of my discomfort, oh no, I have to give, coming out of that, both my own nice guy training, and I realized, who am I to rob them of the pleasure of giving good head? And so as funny as it sounds, it was part of my therapeutic practice to relax and let the women go down on me because they got joy out of it. So when you talk about giving and receiving are happening at the same time, they were getting joy out of folding my clothes, out of giving me a good BJ. And who was I to rob them of that joy and that pleasure because I can't receive. So actually learning to receive is letting somebody love you, is letting somebody get the joy and pleasure out of loving you. And if you don't let them, you're hurting them. You're hurting them. I know it's a weird equation, but it took me a while to figure out. So how about you? Well, how did you learn to let people love you?
Well, one of them is the sex thing was fascinating because when I first started having sex, I was numb and I couldn't feel. So I could feel nothing down there unless I was masturbating. Then I could feel. But if there was nobody in the room, I was by myself, I could feel. So that's how I knew it was psychological. But as soon as I would get hard as a rock and nothing. So I had to start learning to relax more and more. And I was terrified to let the women give to me. I was terrified to let them see me enjoy my own body. There was so much shame inside of me. It drove me nuts. And so in the beginning, I was selfish, I felt. But as I grew, I started to say, wait a minute, can I just let this woman, even if she doesn't touch me down there, like touch me anywhere and receive that pleasure? Can I let that pleasure just let's not go nuts with this, just a little bit at a time. You know?
No, you don't want to go nuts, just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
A little bit at a time.
I literally didn't feel safe with women, and I realized that. It was really rough for me in the beginning. I didn't like sex. I began to resent sex because it felt like a job. And women didn't understand why I didn't want to have sex with them when they were smoking hot. I was like looking at them going, you're smoking hot. My body wants you. My emotions don't. And I couldn't grasp that. Now, yeah, it's the opposite. Like if you want to ravish me, whatever. I'm just watching. I get so much pleasure out of watching them have pleasure, giving me pleasure. It feeds my soul almost.
Yeah, we're having a spiritual conversation here, right? Most people are going, oh, this is pornographic. This is spiritual. It is the giving and the receiving of love. That's the basis of all spirituality.
And then beauty. I want to say something about your space. Like you have this beautiful space in the background. Every time I talk to you on Zoom, it's beautiful. And I realized when you said loving myself, that beautiful space is another one. That's an expression of how you feel about yourself inside. And then I created this beautiful home like that, and I gave keys to my friends. And I said, when I'm traveling on the road, because I was on the road a lot, use my home. Come in and use it. It's like, it's here to be used. And
well, I'll tell you the story. Everything you guys see behind me in this image. When I bought this house 8 years ago, this last month, this room was just a big white room. Didn't even have doors on it, no air conditioning, just a big white room. My wife and I got married in this room. Had about 25 people in here. And then I had a workshop I was going to be leading at a hotel here in town. The hotel said, oh, well, we found out we're booked up. We can't host it was a small hotel, and I told my wife this. She goes, well, why don't we set up this room for you to do your workshop? Why don't we set it up as an office for you? And still, the nice guy in me said, well, why don't we put your massage table in here as well? I'll use part of it as my office, part of it for your massage table, because she was a massage therapist. That's how we met. She said, hola, senor, want a massage? That's how I met my wife. I'm walking down the street here in Puerto Vallarta. And my wife, in all of her wisdom, says, no, this is going to be your office. She said, basically, your work, your book, paid for this house. Treat yourself and create your own space. Make it yours. I mean, that's a good woman, right? I thought, fuck, she should write a book. So I did, and we went about getting it ready to have a workshop in here. We went shopping for the furniture. I had an interior designer that I knew had helped me earlier in my life when I had apartments and stuff. I gave her a certain color palette. She picked the colors out. We got the painter to paint it. The whole house is in these colors. Every time I look at the colors, there's a red wall in front of me that I just love. I put art in here. We went to Oaxaca, Mexico, and bought rugs to put in here. You can see the rugs behind us, tapestry on the wall, those cushions, those pillows. Now that I've built it out where I also use it as a studio, my two 27-inch high-def monitors, my LED lights, my Shure microphone, my Sony headset, everything has been a way of treating myself well, honoring myself, honoring the work that I do, honoring the people that come here and work with me here in the office, honoring, this work I do sitting here. And my first tendency was, oh, I'll share it with you, dear. And she said, no, it's yours. Make it yours. And it's kind of like, yeah, That was a voice of reason. And yeah, I love it. I will just sit in here on the couch over there, and I'll just sit and look around my office at the artwork, the 2 guitars that are sitting here. A good friend of yours, who you were just with today, gave me a Gibson Les Paul guitar that's sitting here on a guitar stand. I look at the art I bought, I look at the tapestries, I look at the colors, and I just go, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm grateful. And I'll just look at the colors and feel blessed.
Have you ever met Zamparo?
I have not. I know you mentioned him. I bought his book, which I haven't read, but he's on my list of books to read and people to meet.
I feel like you two could talk all night. I'd love to get both of you on a call sometime. Or if you ever want to come to Romania. If you want to come to Romania, we'll all hang out together. But he is all about beauty, right? He feels the whole purpose of life is to witness beauty. The joy of life comes from this moment to moment, being in the now, witness of beauty. It's not getting anywhere. It's experiencing this moment right here with all its richness, right? And that's what you're describing. You just were describing everything I did, from the picking out every color, was the enjoying of each moment and being in each moment. How can I express more beauty in this moment? How can I just sit on the couch and just enjoy this moment? And then you have your wife, this beautiful woman who I've met. She's a sweetheart, sitting down saying, enjoy what you've created. I want you to have this big, beautiful space for you so you can enjoy it. And that's what life's all about. You just nailed the whole secret of life, if people can take that in.
There we go. And plus, when Nala, my 4-year-old pit bull, is lying here at my feet, she's actually lying at the door right now because my wife just came home. So, she's, just the love that she brings. And I just love when she's in here. And, and I just get to scratch her neck and scratch her ears and tell her how much I love her. And, and so I love that about, it's here to enjoy the beauty. I've been saying for a while, we're here to get our hearts broken, which is it's really the same thing that we're saying. Because
it's the other side of the polarity, right?
Well, if you think about it, yeah, and actually I got this awareness after an ayahuasca ceremony 2 or 3 years ago.
I was going to ask you about that, so I'm glad you went there.
I'll tee it up.
Arrhythmia.
Okay. And so, out of the, 8 ceremonies I've done, all had different takeaways. And I always tell people, don't try to explain to anybody what your experience was on plant medicine, because it's like trying to explain your weird dream to them. But I came out of one of them, said, we're here to get our heart broken. And the core piece of that is, for anything to be good enough, amazing enough to break our heart, is something that we would not have wanted to have missed out on. So whether it's the beauty of a color, whether it's the beauty of the love of this dog, the love of another human being, of a child, and everything's going to pass. Dr. David Snarch, who wrote an amazing book called Passionate Marriage, there's a quote in there. He says, in every relationship, somebody's going to get left. Everything's going to pass. It's the Buddhist idea of impermanence. Nothing goes forever. And if we're hanging on to, but I don't want to get left. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get my heart broken. I got it broken before it hurt. I got let down before. I got rejected before. I got disappointed. I don't want to. Well, then we don't let in the beauty. We don't let in the love. We don't let in the connection. We don't let in, the love of a dog, the human being, the beauty. I said, well, I could lose everything in this office. It could all be, it is all going to be taken away from me. I'm going to die and leave it all behind, or, I'll outlive it and go do something else. So I don't know. But that's okay. For something to be so good that it could hurt us to lose it, I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss that. Whatever that manifestation is, if it's that damn good, I want to enjoy it to the depths of everything that it has to offer.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. My old mentor, Carl, used to say something to that effect too. He would say, if you ever want to experience love, you gotta be willing to have your heart broken completely. You gotta open your heart completely. Yeah. And otherwise you'll never really fully experience love. You'll always hold it at bay. And it's a beautiful, beautiful idea when you think about it.
Well, and here's the thing. Going back to the whole love thing and loving self, loving other, letting others love us. Because that is our deepest desire. I think our deepest human desire is to feel lovable, to love, and be loved. And I think that those are all three different manifestations of the same thing. But because love hurts, because we get disappointed. Everybody who's ever loved us, mom, dad, best friends as a kid, earliest girlfriends, exes, buddies, everybody's loved us imperfectly because we're imperfect, right? We're all clumsy lovers. None of us do this well. I mean, we're having whole conversations about how do you let somebody love you? Oh, you let them give you a blowjob. I mean, that's basic training, right? Who taught us that when we were young?
And someday that blowjob will be gone, and you won't be able to experience it. Yeah,
it will end. It will end, and so, but nobody teaches us. So here's the thing. If that's our deepest human desire, to feel lovable, to love and be loved. But if love hurts, because it does end, in every relationship, somebody is going to get left. That's just the nature of all existence. Now we develop neuroses and defense mechanisms to protect ourselves from that hurt. And so I don't know if you're familiar with Pema Chodron. She's a Buddhist monk, written a book called The Wisdom of No Escape. She's written other books, but love it. The Wisdom of No Escape, it's a series of lectures. And she's basically talking about this armor that we put on ourselves, that to protect us. And she's really funny. She'll talk about it could be a male armor like a knight of the round table. It might be tough leather like Hell's Angels armor. It could be what this armor that I'm not going to let you hurt me. I'm not going to let you get close enough to hurt me. And we got our weaponry. We got our defensive armor, our offensive weaponry. It might be a lance. It might be a lightsaber, Star Wars lightsaber. It might be our wit. It might be our sarcasm. It might be, however we can jab and poke and we're trying to get loved and love with this armor on and these weapons. I think one of the most poignant songs ever written, Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. And, it talks about the pain of love. That's what the whole song is about. We've heard different versions of it. Brandy Carlisle, there's many great versions. But the line in there that all I learned of love was how to shoot who outdrew you. All right, I'm going to shoot you before you can hurt me in love. That's love. That's how we're trying to do love, right? And so Pema Chodron talks about in that book, The Wisdom of No Escape, if we're going to experience love, if we're going to give love, we gotta take the armor off. And she talks about all the different ways you maybe cut it off or peel it off or take a saw to it or how to drop the armor. Because until we can take the armor off, and that means dropping our defense mechanisms, our neuroses, and truly letting people get close to us and hurt us, because they will be clumsy. That's the nature of us humans. We're learning to love. We're not good at it. So they are going to bumble their way through loving us, and they may lie to us. They may cheat on us. They may steal from us. They may disappoint us. They may call us a name when we feel vulnerable. They may not. They're going to hurt us. But what's the alternative? Walk through life guarded on our cell phones all the time? I'm not getting close to anybody. I'm just going to be on my phone. I'm scrolling Instagram. I'm scrolling, right on Tinder, but I'm not getting close to anybody. This is the closest I let anybody get to me. How do we ever get loved? And therefore we never get our hearts broken, which means we miss out on the good shit.
You can choose to live with no love your whole life, but what kind of life is that, right?
There's no good shit in that. And then why would we live that? Where's the beauty in that, right? Where's the memories in that? Where's the good stories in that? Where's the learning in that?
I think somewhere in the Course of Miracles, at least the Circle of Atonement's version, which is the one I like, there's a reference to the whole purpose of the human body is to facilitate this sense, getting back to this sense of connection and oneness again. Otherwise, we don't need it. Get back to realizing we're all one. And that ultimately, to me, is experiencing love directly. I mean, I don't know how you see it, but
that seems like the ultimate love, right? Again, when we get away from any idea of separate self, that all is one, that we are the creator and the created, that both the creator and creation are all one. There's no separate. That's hard for us humans to understand. Some
people have a hard time with that, yeah. But I agree with you 100% on that. That's at the deepest states of meditation, right, people do suddenly feel like they're one with everything, and they realize they're not their body. And this happens time and time again with people that hit these deep states. So that brings me to, let's go all the way to the other side of that, because we haven't really covered this yet, but the core of the nice guy is abandonment. That we covered it slightly, but this idea is, what is abandonment that causes, and when we say abandonment, I'm thinking about how you feel so far away from connecting to anybody else. You're completely on the other side of, I'm not going to let anybody in. I got to be super careful. I got to hide so I don't get abandoned. I don't want to end up alone, but I am alone because I don't want to end up alone, right?
Yeah, funny.
So what creates all that, for the nice guy? And how do they deal it?
This isn't just a nice guy issue. This is a human being issue. When I was in grad school and took Child Development 101, this is early 80s, so I won't even do the math. That was a long time ago. I still remember probably the first thing I got taught was, for a child, their greatest fear is abandonment, because abandonment equals death. And, most of us, we were little back then, and we don't have memory, so we don't have cognitive memory, we don't have picture memory, we have emotional memory. So we can't really go back and go, oh, yeah, that was right. But a child is completely needy and dependent and vulnerable on their caregivers, completely. Some species of animal, they're born and the babies take care of themselves in one day. I don't know if this is true. I should look it up. But I was told fireflies are born, copulate, and die all in the same 24-hour span. All right, so that's pretty quick stuff. We humans are the slowest maturing mammal on the planet. We need to be cared for longer than any other animal. Now, that number seems to continually be changing. In our grandparents' age, that you were mature at 12 or 14 because you had to be. And, my age, you're mature at 18, 21. Nowadays, Generation Z, you're mature at 35, maybe. You can leave home at 35 now. But, putting the humor aside, we were born completely needy and dependent. And if our caregivers did not take care of us, if they were not paying attention to us and meeting our needs in timely, judicious, and consistent ways, we had abandonment experiences. Anything that felt uncomfortable, frightening, painful to us felt like death, like we're going to die. And the truth is, if we were not cared for, it would have just take a few days, not long, of not being nurtured or cared for, we would have died. I have no doubt that probably our tribal ancestors, during times of famine and difficulty, when, people were starving, probably let the old people and the babies go first. The babies especially, because they were drained on the resources and they didn't give anything back whatsoever. So it's probably even wired into our epigenetics that, we could die. So what felt like abandonment, and it could just be we were hungry and didn't get fed. We were cold and didn't get wrapped up. We pooped in our diaper and nobody changed it right away. Those were abandonment experiences. And if they lasted, because as a child, you don't know how long that's going to be. You're not thinking you don't have a time span ability at that age. Well, this has only been going on for 3 minutes. See, they usually get here within 5 and feed me. You don't think that way. This is like, I'm hungry. I've always been hungry. I'm always going to be hungry. I'm going to die. We're not thinking, but it's an emotional reaction to it. That gets stored up in our emotional memory. That's where our core fear of abandonment comes from as adults, is stored up in emotional memory. Today, we're not going to die if we get rejected or if our partner doesn't meet our needs. Like, for example, you've met Lupita. She's a fiery Mexican woman. She's got that, that Latina jealousy, and, she assumes every woman that looks at me, wants to fuck me, and of course I want to fuck them too. And, so that colors her whole world and her interactions with me. And she'll get this look on her face. It's this downturned look, and her body language, she'll get kind of rigid, kind of withdrawn. Her answers kind of get snappy. She'll throw something into her purse, throws her sunglass case or her sweat rag into her purse. And oh, viscerally, I feel I'm in trouble. Viscerally, I feel like I'm going to die. Now, you may repeat it. I mean, she's a short little Mexican woman. You know, she's a gym rat. She could kick my ass. There's no doubt about that. But she's not going to leave me. I know that. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt she's not going to leave me. But my reaction to that downturned look on her face feels like I'm going to die. Now, I know my emotional reaction is out of proportion to this short little Mexican woman getting a downturned look on her face, right? That's how you know that something is old. If an emotional response in the present seems out of proportion to what's happening in the present, it's old. It's old feelings, old emotions being brought piggybacked onto the present event. That's why I'm a marriage therapist by training. That's probably why most couples fight or don't fight in their relationships, because they're triggered in things that triggered old emotional memory. We always blame it all on our partner. It's their fault. They're doing it. I wouldn't feel this way if not for them. And we're having an overreaction to it. Either we're clamming up or withdrawing or fighting or, trying to make it better or whatever we do. All that is old memory. So we've all had abandonment experiences. And so we're all walking the planet again with the armor on, with, to protect us and with the weaponry. We don't want that to happen because, we don't want to keep experiencing this. I'm going to fucking die. I'm dying. Because that's the way it feels on the inside. Even if what's happening outside of us bears no resemblance to being a death threat, right? On the inside, it feels like I'm dying. And so we protect ourselves from that, which means we protect ourselves from the very people that we want to be loved by and that we want to love. All because we don't want to experience those abandonment feelings that are stored up in the core of our primitive brain. Now, one of the things that I've been teaching for years as a relationship therapist is, and I got this from David Snarch as well from Passionate Marriage, he says, turn your relationships into a powerful personal growth machine. Every way that my partner triggers me, every way that my defense mechanisms and neuroses and attack and managing my anxiety and shame and stress show up, those are ways my partner can help me clean out all that old baggage is lurking in my unconscious and down in my brainstem of my primitive brain. That our partners can help, people in general can help us clear this out if we'll be the noticer and observer that every reaction we have, and I don't remember this every time. It serves me when I do, but I try to teach people. Whenever you have any reaction, any emotional reaction, or any guardedness, or any repression of emotion, ask yourself, what story is this reaction telling me about me? Not, why are they doing that? How can I get them to quit? Why do they treat me that way? No, our reactions are telling a story about us. And so it's a gift when people trigger those reactions, because now we go, whoa, that's interesting. Why, when my wife gets that look on her face, do I feel like I'm going to die and I have to fix it at all costs right now? Well, that's weird. Get curious about it and just don't get analytical about it, but just get open to, maybe that's not about my wife. Maybe that's just an old trigger that somehow brings up some really old emotions that feel really strong. And how can I have some compassion for the me that went through those emotions at a very early age? And what can I learn by experiencing them right now?
That was beautifully said. The question I would have is, how do you, what's the difference between that? You're saying everybody has abandonment issues because that's the nature of being a child, and the nice guy's abandonment issues, or the nice guy's toxic shame. Let's put it that way. What's the difference between that and the toxic shame?
So here's what happens when we're little. We'll stay here in Child Development 101. Is that when we experience uncomfortable emotions, we experience them at a very primitive level, because our prefrontal cortex is not developed and won't be developed for 25 more years if we're male, okay? What is fully developed is our brainstem down here that manages survival, fight, flight, freeze. The amygdala manages heart rate, respiration, and survival, fight, flight, freeze. The theory is that the amygdala, it's about the size of your little fingernail, there's two of them down in your brainstem, stores up emotional memory as well. Not cognitive, verbal, picture memory, but emotional memory. So what's happening to us is like, you're a dog lover. I'm a dog lover. We could never imagine kicking a dog. We just wouldn't do it. But some people kick their dogs. And, the dogs will, if the dog gets kicked enough, it'll do two things. It'll try to manage the pain of being kicked right now in the here and now, and try to figure out how to avoid situations in the future that get it kicked, using a fairly primitive brain. Not one near as evolved as what an adult human would use. As children, we were like that. We were using a very primitive brain. And when we had painful experiences, and that didn't necessarily involve being hit or kicked, but they could have. Children get hit and kicked. It happens. Big people tend to do whatever they want to little people. And that's just kind of the way of the world. So little people get things done to them, and they can't stop it. But let's say you're 2 weeks old, 2 months old, 2 years old, and something happens that's painful. Maybe mom's distracted and doesn't feed you. Again, maybe you poop your diaper and nobody comes around to change. Maybe you're getting yelled at. Maybe you're getting shaken. Maybe you're getting abused. Maybe, you're getting violated. It can be any range of stuff. It's painful. And as an infant, using a very primitive brain, you're going to try to do two things like that dog that's getting kicked. One is you're going to try to manage or soothe the painful experiences right now. You'll do something. I think most animals are this way. Humans are this way. I'm gonna do what I can to manage these uncomfortable feelings. We don't think it, we just do it. So some children cry. Some children don't cry. Some children sleep. Some children throw a tantrum. Some become needless and wantless. I sucked my thumb until I was in kindergarten. Think maybe I was managing uncomfortable emotion. That's how I did it, right? So every child, every human will do that first thing is, how do I manage the uncomfortable emotions in the moment using a non-reasoning, primitive survival instinct brain, okay? So we're limited, basically. The second thing that we try to do is try to prevent those painful experiences from happening in the future, because we think we're the cause of it. What can I do to make sure that doesn't happen again? Children are narcissistic. And again, I'm using thinking words, but the child's brain is not thinking. It's reacting, it's responding, it's reflex. So how do I deal with the uncomfortable feelings now? How do I prevent the things in the future that will cause more? Every human does this. This is the nature of all neuroses. Neuroses isn't a bad thing. It's just things that we learned or tried or picked up at very young age to deal with an unpredictable, frightening world. That's all neuroses is. We then carry those into adulthood and apply them to a world which we have, we can think things out now. We can actually do things differently. We can make choices. We get empower ourselves. And so neuroses are outdated things that we adapted when we were like a dog being kicked, and we didn't. That's the best we could do. We carry it into adolescence and adulthood, and now it's what we do unconsciously because, that's what we do, right? My wife gets a downturned look on her face. I go into fix-it mode, talk her down, through, over, get her off the ledge, get her back to good. When that doesn't work, I yell at her and say hurtful things to her because it didn't work, right? It should have worked. That's neuroses. That's neurotic. It doesn't work. It doesn't serve any purpose, but man, it sure shows up in a hurry. So we all have neuroses. Nice guy syndrome is just one form of neuroses, of how do I manage the uncomfortable feelings I'm feeling now? How do I prevent them happening again in the future? Now, some people do this with addiction. Some people do it with making money. Some people do it with not making money. Some people do it with being helpless, victims. I mean, there's multiple ways of trying to use our neuroses to manage the uncomfortable feelings in the moment and prevent them in the future. Everybody's doing this. Everybody. We just all do it in our own unique way, our own unique subset. And nice guy syndrome is just something that I put a name on, and other people seem to like the name as well, to a subset of behaviors that kind of group, a certain category of men and women into a certain, and we're all different still, but we have certain, kind of identifiable behaviors that look pretty similar across our subset. And then, but there's lots of other subsets of how do people use their neuroses to deal with their uncomfortable feelings and try to prevent them. So, nice guy syndrome is no different than any other person that went through pain or abandonment as an infant. It's just different style.
One of the things I've noticed with nice guy syndrome is guys don't let go of it easily. They really hold on to that neuroses. And, and what I love how you say something to them that, when they're dealing with stuff is there's that term, I can handle it. Teaching yourself and saying that over and over again, I can handle it. And I say that to, I don't know, maybe I got that from you because I say that to my clients a lot.
I got it from the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Dr. Susan Jeffers. And I remember
did read that book many years ago.
I remember reading an article back when I was in my first marriage. It was an excerpt from the book. And I was a minister at the time. And I'm reading this article and I go, this is really good. This is what I teach other people. But it's like, it's teaching me this, feel the fear and do it anyway. I'll handle it. I'll be okay. And I made a mental note. When that book comes out, I'm going to buy it. Well, a few months later, I'm separated and going through a divorce. And like I said, I was a minister at the time. I had a young son, less than 2 years old. It was a stressful time. I found that book in the bookstore, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I give it credit for saving my life, really, because I was a mess. I was a real mess. And the key takeaway from that book is I'll handle it. No matter what happens, I'll handle it. I've handled everything that's ever happened to me in life. I'll handle whatever is scaring me now. So, yeah, that was a big takeaway for me. And I've repeated that I'll handle it in many, many, many different situations. I mean, if this, for example, was the first podcast interview I ever done, I'd be quaking and anxious because I was for the first interviews I ever did, 25 years ago. And I just kept telling myself, I'll handle it. I'll handle it. No matter what happens, I'll handle it. And I still, when I get stressed or anxious, that's still a go-to for me. I'll handle it.
Well, what's some, since you can handle it, and since I want to help the people watching this podcast, men or women, I'd love to have some women on here too, as they're going through their nice guy, nice gal syndrome, or whatever they're going through, I can handle it's a great statement, but what's something they can do to start breaking the paradigm in a solid way? Like what's just to get a couple little things, like, I don't know who I am, I'm constantly people pleasing. I've got this shame that binds me that never stops. Like, is there a couple things just right now that you could give them that would help them move in a direction of being able to get through that?
Yeah, I wrote a book about it.
It's a good book. Everybody should get it, by the way. If I was at home, I'm in Austin, but if I was at home, I'd have the copy right here with all its highlights. It'd be filled with them.
I do like seeing that when people send me a picture of their book with all the pages turned and everything highlighted. That does give me pleasure. I mean, it makes me proud. Okay, so let's kind of go back to the idea of neuroses and why is this hard for nice guys to let go? One of the things I say in the book is that nice guys are notoriously slow learners and quick forgetters. But, I think this is probably true when it comes to shedding any neurosis. I was, just before I got on this call with you, I was recording an hour and a half segment for a training program that I have where I was talking about relationships. And I said, one of the things I've learned, because you and I have been talking about love. Maybe what we're talking about just segued from that, thing I was talking about just before I got on the call with you. We're here to get our heart broken. We want to feel loved and give love and receive love. And one of the things I said in that recording before this call was something, I think I learned this the hard way from my own personal experiences, but then I started looking at it from just a lot of the couples and people I've worked with over the last 40 years, is that most people, no matter how much we crave to feel lovable, to love and be loved, we will choose our neuroses and our defense mechanisms over love. Why? Well, love's scary. Love could hurt us. Love's the unknown. Love is, can be painful. Our neuroses and our defense mechanisms, we've known them since we were 2 days old, 2 weeks old, 2 years old. They've been our most constant companion. And again, they're wired into this really primitive part of our brain. We don't have to think about it. It's just reflexive. Carl Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, It'll rule our life, and we'll call it fate. Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that, I think he says, lies our freedom and our power, or something like that. So what we're talking about is, how do we go from being reflexive, based on what we stored up and learned at our earliest age when we were helpless and vulnerable? How do we go from being reflexive to responsive? How do we get more conscious of how we react to the triggers in our life? How do I get conscious of when my wife gets that downturned look on her face? How do I get conscious of, all right, she got something on her mind, something's bothering her. Might be about me, might not be about me. And then I can then do some things to begin with what I call soothing myself. And to kind of go back to your question, what can we do? I have a 4-step, just little checklist mantra that helps me in the areas of life where I've come to see I have these reflexive reactions rather than a more conscious response to things. And it begins with getting grounded. And I know you're really into embodiment. I've watched you do embodiment with many men, and you're a master at it. And getting grounded is just getting solid on the floor. For lack of, I'm barefoot most of the time. I'm barefoot right now. And so, like, when I do interviews like this, anytime, I check in with my feet. I love that phrase, be where your feet are. I just check in with my feet and get grounded. If you take any martial arts, if you train in any sport, you learn to get your energy low, or get solid down low. If your energy's high, you get toppled over too easily. That's true metaphorically, it's true physically. So 1, ground. 2, breathe. Kind of going back to feel the fear and do it anyway. What's the best way to soothe your anxiety? Yeah, having that mental outlook, I'll handle it. But even before that, you got to breathe. When we get stressed or anxious, when we go into our sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, there's danger, I got to react. Our breathing changes. That affects the oxygen, CO2 levels in our blood. And it makes our body change to where we can fight, we can run, we can freeze. We want to move ourselves back into parasympathetic nervous system, where we can calm ourselves. The cortisol levels go down. And we do that through breath, just nice, easy, diaphragmatic belly breaths. So you can do this I can do these 4 steps in a second. Ground, breathe, and then the next one's more kind of a psychological piece, open. Open to the experience. What's happening? What's rather than I got to fight this, I got to flee, I open to the experience. I learned this process again when I was doing the ayahuasca down at Rhythmia. Really, really good book by Byron Katie called Loving What Is. I mean, she totally rips off the Buddha and doesn't give him any credit in that book. Later book, she actually does give the Buddha credit for her philosophy. Loving what is. Okay, this is what's happening. We don't get happy in life by changing what's happening in life. We get happy in life by accepting what's happening in life, surrendering to it. So how do we open to what's happening rather than close around it, stress around it? And then the 4th part of my mantra is get curious. What's happening? Why am I reacting this way? Just curious, not judgment, just curious. Why is this thing happening outside of me? Why is my partner getting that frown on her face? And if I get curious with no judgment, it shifts everything. It just shifts my perception, it shifts my energy, it shifts how I can interact and respond to that situation. So this has helped me tremendously. It's taken kind of years of practice to ground, breathe, open, and just get curious. Not analytical, curious. This is interesting. What story is this telling me about me? What might be happening with my partner or that person that just cut me off in traffic or whatever it might be? Just get curious. And that seems to just shift the entire perspective of what's happening in that moment. I mean, this works for anybody, not just nice guys. So that's really powerful for me.
It's beautiful. It reminds me of embodiment. My old teacher, Carl, used to say all the time, just stop. And people would say, what does he mean by just stop? And he literally means just stop all this. But he'd say, to stop, you got to get grounded. You got to open your heart. You got to be able to breathe deep into your body and feel the energy flow through your body. You're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Well, probably most of us are all saying the same thing when you boil it all down.
All from different angles, yeah, and different directions. I want to talk a little bit about your other book, because you got another great book out there, Dating Essentials.
I got 3 other books, actually, but which we're going to talk about Dating Essentials.
Yeah, what's don't know all your books. How do I not know all your books? There's something wrong with this.
I don't know, because if you were actually referring more of my books, I could go out and buy a new car. You paid for my last car with all the books you referred.
All the nice guys syndrome. I paid for a car, so we got to get 3 more cars because there's 3 more books, right?
Actually, so there's Dating Essentials for Men, and then Dating Essentials for Men FAQ, frequently asked questions, and then another one that I co-wrote with one of my coaches. You may know him, Tony Endelman. Is called The Big Stick, and it's just basically a really good overview of a lot of the stuff I've taught over the last 20 or 30 years. And so I co-wrote that with Tony. I kind of provided him with all the material, and he did the heavy lifting, and then I just got to edit and add examples and stuff. So Dating Essentials for Men. So you want to dive into that?
Yeah. And Markham, I give Markham credit. He did bring up the Dating Essentials FAQ today. So,
you know what? Let me get a plug in, because I can. You and I were joking about product placement before we got going. I've got my T-shirt on for my men's membership program, my coffee cup. You got to get more product placement. They're in front of you. But
give me a big Integration Nation sign. I'll put it right here.
yeah, I'd pay you for that. So but the FAQ, Dating Essentials for Men FAQ, it's probably my book that sells the least. Maybe just because it's just not that well known. A lot of people don't know it exists. And what it is, when I used to teach the Dating Essentials course online, I taught it for 10 or 12 years. And I do both written forums and live Q&As along with it. But mainly early on, it was just written forum. Guys would ask me questions, and I'd answer them. So this was hundreds and hundreds of questions and replies. We took them, I boiled them down to, just the best, about 300 questions. I think it's 300 or more, and down to about, if I remember right, about 70 categories. Kind of boil them down, edited them, kind of flushed them out a little bit. Did some. It was actually a lot more work than you'd think it would be to take something you've already written and repurpose it. But it was so much fun because it was me. It was like, these kind of conversations. Guys would ask a question about a very specific thing, and I give a very specific answer. Often it involves something like, quit being such a dumb shit. That's not going to ever work for you. So you get the real me, and with love, of course. I hit them with the big stick with love. And so there's a lot of questions where I'm just real. And I'd say get the audible version of it, because it's me reading it. And it's probably my thickest book that I've written published. Well, other than Big Stick, it's bigger, but we'll give Tony credit for making that. And I was in New York City. I think they booked like 6-7 days to record it. And I think I got it done in 3 or 4 days recording it. But I had so much fun recording it.
You're the reader?
Yeah, I read it too. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I love that.
All my books except Big Stick. I read No More Mr. Nice Guy, both Dating Essentials for Men. So I love the FAQ book mainly because it's just me getting to be real and blunt and upfront with guys. And especially if you hear me read it, it's probably even more entertaining than just reading it.
Yeah, I love it when the author reads. If the author's halfway decent reading, I'd much rather have the author, because they know how to invest in what they're talking about, versus somebody.
No More Mr. Nice Guy, when it got published, the publisher decided to not hire me to read it and hired a professional voice. And the guy kept referring to covert contracts as covered contracts. And covert contract is a key part of the book. And he said, people go, Robert, how come you didn't read the book? They didn't let me. So just quick story. About 15 years after, it'd been out, our contract had long, we'd fulfilled the contract. It was probably for 7 years or whatever. And we'd done a few tweaks on the written version of it. Didn't really change anything, just, little edits and some corrections. And I told my agent, I said, listen, I want to read the book. And I said, the book's only available in North America anyway. I want worldwide distribution. And I said, let's get out of that contract. Let's end it and find me a new contract. So he did. He contacted people who had the contract, and they wrote us and said, okay, at the end of this calendar year, the contract's done. About 2 weeks later, my agent sends me an email, forwards an email, and he says, we got an offer from the exact same company that had owned the contract before. And they said, we encourage you to consider their offer. Well, I'm reading it. It's from the vice president of the company. And he said, we've only done this one other time went out and let the author, we re-record it basically in the author's voice. And he said, we want you to read it. We said, Dr. Glover, No More Mr. Nice Guy are synonymous. We want it part of our evergreen catalog. And we want to offer you a $75,000 advance and $5,000 to come to New York and read it for your expenses. And I'm going, well, that's kind of a no-brainer. I just wanted to get out of the contract and get a new one, and I make $80,000 on it. Well, it's when it's in advance, they take that money out of your royalties until you pay. So, all it really did was just like boost my taxes up that year. But, I felt honored that I was just trying to get out of the contract. I wanted to read it. And they go, we want you so bad, we're going to give you $80,000 out of our pocket. And we want you to come read it. And we're honored to have you read it. So anyway, yeah. So that's how I got to read No More Mr. Nice Guy.
I think I need to go through it again and listen to you read it, because I think the last time I did listen to it was a different reader. I think it was whoever that guy was. Throw that guy out. He's out of here. So
yeah, when I was reading it, I got teary-eyed, just reading stories of guys that I knew about, I remembered. It was good reading too. Talk about being slow learner, quick forgetters. I'm going, oh fuck, I'm still doing that. Oh fuck, I've forgotten about that one. I think this is good for me to go back and read it, because I'm one of those slow learners, quick forgetters as well. All right, dating essentials for men. What do you got?
You said something in Dating Essentials that I think is that nobody ever says in their dating books, and I think it's so simple, and it's so simple it's very profound. And you said that fun. You were talking about fun, and you said the truth is that dating is all about fun. Kissing is fun, flirting is fun, holding a girl's hand is fun, sex is fun. If you can't have fun, and the nice guys don't know how to have fun, at least I didn't, or don't want to, you're gonna have to change that. And I thought that's simple.
That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
That is simple.
Yeah, isn't it?
I'll have to go back and reread that book.
Obvious.
It's been a while.
It's so obvious, but everybody's trying to figure out how to get somewhere, do something, make something happen. Where's the fun? I got to get the kiss. It's so serious. I got to get the hand. It's so serious. How do I hold her hand?
I better not look foolish. I better not get rejected.
Yeah.
Think about it. Every relationship, I do remember I talk about this. Every relationship is a trade, right? We're trading something. We're giving something to receive, and they're giving something to receive. And often, I just interviewed Orion Tarabant. If you don't know Orion, you need to talk to him. He just published a book called The Value of Others, and it's all about the economics of relationships. But really bright guy. He's got a great podcast too called Psych Hacks. So anyway, it's a trade. I said it a lot more simply in Dating Essentials for Men. We're trading something. So what you want, if you're a single guy, is you want a woman to come into your life in some way. Maybe you're just looking for sexual access. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you're looking for just a companion to go do stuff with. That's okay. Maybe you're looking for a long-term partner. That's good. You want something, right? So the trades and economics of relationships, especially between genders, they're varied and complex. But there's one thing I learned with women, and I'm going to make a gender generalization, and nowadays those almost always get you in trouble. But this isn't mean-spirited or saying women. I say
go for it. Let's do it. Let's not be politically correct. Let's go for it.
One of the things I've found is that most women have what I call a ruminating brain. They have a hamster spinning in their head. Evolutionarily, they're security-seeking creatures. Women have never felt safe walking the planet. They're less strong than men, less fast than men, vulnerable because they're pregnant or they have a baby. Even the whole hashtag Me Too movement was women's way of saying, we don't feel safe. Look, we get violated by all these people that should have been protecting us. Rather, they used us. They hurt us. So if you're a security-seeking creature, if you feel vulnerable, I tell guys, ask a woman if she feels safe walking alone through her own neighborhood in the daytime or nighttime. Nighttime, of course not. Daytime, maybe even feels a little bit checking who's around me. Ask women, do you feel safe when a guy's approaching you out of the blue? You don't know this guy. He's a stranger. You know what he wants. He's got a sexual agenda. You don't know if he's going to have finesse, if he's going to blunder, if he's going to be abusive, is he skilled at this? You don't know. So, women do feel vulnerable. And when you feel vulnerable, you're constantly scanning, constantly guarding, constantly. The mind is a predictive machine. What could go wrong? What could that guy want? What's the worst possible outcome in this situation? So, in other words, they got these hamsters spinning in their head. And especially when you put a woman out into the masculine world and say, okay, go get ahead, get your career, perform, all masculine things that many women can do very well, but they're out of their natural element. They're out of their feminine of being open and being receptive and connecting in the flow of love. And they can do it, but it keeps them triggered. My wife will sometimes say, I'm having a 12 hamster day, meaning there's 12 of those things spinning in her head today. Okay, so let's say you approach a woman and you're anxious and you're trying to get her approval and you're trying not to get rejected and you're trying not to, look foolish, get shot down, get beat up by a boyfriend that's around the corner somewhere. And you bring that anxious need for external validation and try to get her to want to come trade and come be with you. Be your sex partner, be your companion, be your girlfriend. And she's already got these 12 hamsters spinning in her head. And you got 12 hamsters spinning in your head because you're so anxious and stressed and afraid. Why is that a good trade for her? How's she improving her life? How is she improving that present moment? But you know what? If you're just engaging with her and you're just being you and you have no agenda, no attachment to the outcome, you're just having fun and being playful and teasing her when you feel like and touching her if you have the impulse and, inviting her to come have fun with you, invite her into your great life, that's going to feel good. That's a break. That's an escape for her from all this noise in her head. When I was dating, I went through about a period of 12 years or so where I was single and dating. The majority of women I dated, I never saw where they lived. I never saw their home. A few that I went to, and they all came to my house. And my apartment was nicely decorated, had nice colors in it, had nice furniture, nice tapestries, nice alcohol, nice stereo, nice plasma TV. Remember plasma TVs? I had a plasma TV back in the day, right? Yeah, I had one. Piece of shit.
You couldn't lay it down. I remember I took it in the truck to move. You got to keep it standing upright, I was told.
And you can't leave it turned on at overnight or it'll get burned in. So I had one, right? The women loved coming to my house. They'd come over to my place and, we'd sit down on my couch to watch a show or do something. And they would fall asleep with their head on my chest. And they'd be snoring and drooling on my chest. I know that doesn't sound sexy, but what it was is they were so fucking relaxed for the first time, maybe in days, weeks, years maybe, that they were so relaxed and they felt safe that they would just, they're sitting there, they'd wake up and they go, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm drooling on your chest. And I go, you were snoring too. and you just have fun with it and playful. Those women are going to want to get naked with you in a hurry because they feel so relaxed, so safe, so just comfortable. And for the women, I used to say that my apartment, it was just a small one-bedroom apartment, was like their Disneyland. They got away. They got to come to my house. It had candles. It had nice colors. It had a really comfortable bed with 600 thread count Pima cotton sheets on it. And like you say, good alcohol and beautiful art and nice lighting. And they'd come and they'd walk in and they'd walk around, their hands always out like this and go, did you do this yourself? They kind of knew that probably a woman had a hand in decorating it. And then they go, does it always look like this? Meaning, is it always this clean? That's why I didn't get invited to their house, because their houses didn't look like that. There was clothes everywhere. There were dishes in the sink, unmade beds, I had a house cleaner that came regularly. They loved coming into my world because it was fun in my world. It was relaxed in my world. There was adventure in my world. There was just anything could happen in my world, positive, right? And so I created that in my life, right? That's how I live my life. And I just created a space I wanted to live in, and I lived my life in the way I wanted to live it. And that just seemed to really resonate with the women. And, Chris Williamson has picked up one of my quotes, and I've heard him use it on other of his interviews, and it's simply that the feminine is highly attracted to a man who's comfortable in his own skin, knows where he's going, and looks like he's having a good time getting there. I'll tell that to female dating coaches, in interviews. And every woman I've told that to, they all go, they do that. That's like, kind of their heads go back, their mouths comes open, they go, they just sigh. Just that thing. Attracted to a man who's comfortable in his own skin. He takes good care of himself. He works out. He's grounded. He's embodied. He's not, exuding anxiety. He's exuding self-confidence. He knows where he's going. He's on purpose. He has passion. And he's having a good time getting there. He gets up every day like I tried to, where I love waking up in the morning not knowing how my day's going to end. I look for every day to be an adventure. Every day I leave my house for miracles to happen as I connect with people. I'm living that way on purpose, and that's highly attractive to the feminine. Because, again, most of them are in their masculine, having to take care of way too much shit, got the hamster spinning in their head, and we're approaching them going, let me play a trick. Let me do some hypnosis. Let me try some NLP. Let me do a poll question. She goes, I heard that one already. That doesn't. What are they gonna? What's gonna draw them into all that?
Nothing. You also said something here. We're getting on an hour and a half, so we'll probably have to end up here soon because I know you have to go. But there was one other thing you said that I haven't heard. I don't hear enough dating coaches say. You covered the security thing, which I think is so important. So important. You create a safe space. It's huge. And we could dig into that as to, why they like gold diggers or why some women become gold diggers because security, right? But there's one that I love is the over talking. I heard a natural once say, when I see two guys competing for a girl, the one that is saying the least is probably going to win.
Probably going to get laid.
Yeah. So,
I started working on a book several years ago. Actually, I turned it into a class. It's a course I teach, and the book is still unfinished. People will still write me, Robert, when are you going to finish? And the book, the working title is PET, or Positive Emotional Tension. Well, when I first pitched this to my agent,
love the title.
I pitched it. He goes, that's not sexy enough. Like No More Mr. Nice Guy. So I remember, this is probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. Said, all right, what's the sexy title? And I remember I was out having dinner with a good friend of mine, Dr. Michael Pariser. We were in L.A. at a really nice restaurant. And he and I always had this agreement. He used to live on a boat in Santa Monica, or not Santa Monica, but Marina del Rey. And I'd go visit him in L.A., and I get a place on his boat. He had a berth in his boat. That was mine. We'd go out to eat. I'd pay for dinner, and he'd bring really, really good, expensive wine. Because I always got the best end of that deal. So we're in this restaurant. Pretty expensive restaurant in L.A. He's got all these wine bottles, and we had about 2 or 3 waitresses taking care of us. One was a woman. I think she might have been the floor manager. So we kept calling her over because we're playing out the ideas for the book. What's a better sexy title for Positive Emotional Tension, or PET? And we're just sitting there, and I go, Michael, really the same thing keeps coming to mind, but I don't think I can get away with naming a book this. And he goes, what? And he goes, well, this is what women would say to me when I was over talking and they were ready to go. I'd be just kind of yakking and I've had more than one woman say to me, would you just shut up and fuck me? And Michael goes,
that's a great title.
He goes, I kind of like that. So we called the female, the floor manager over. I said, all right, we'd already given her several to try on for size. And I go, how about shut up and fuck me? She goes, that's it. I love it. And so I wrote my agent, and he said, he wrote me back, and he's this, old New York Jew. And he says, I ran it by all the women in my office, and he goes, they all love it. And he says, I'm still a little, but said they all love it. And I said, I tell you what, I'm going to reach out to Mark Manson and ask him about, using the word fuck in the title of a book. So Mark Manson and I even had a dialogue about using the word fuck. 'Cause it worked out well for him more than once, for a couple of his books.
Put him on the map, pretty much.
Yeah, it did. It put him on the map. And he and I just talked a couple weeks ago when he came on my men's program, as you have done as well. So that idea of shut up and fuck me, and it really, it even goes back to when I was doing a men's group years ago. There's one guy, he was married, and he overtalked shit to death, and his wife would get impatient. And so we gave him the mantra from here on out with you and your wife: talk less, fuck more. And he turned that into a life mantra, really. Don't
That's a good
be so
title
verbal.
too.
Just take the act. Just go for it. Just take the action. Because you're right. When we nice guys, and most of us are pretty, this is a whole other subject that we don't have time for. It's just our anxiety around sexuality, our sexual shame, our self-limiting beliefs. I had beliefs that women didn't like sex and thought men who wanted sex were bad, because that's the message I got from my mother and all the women I heard complain about men who only want one thing. So, I was always approaching women trying to, do whatever it took to sneak my agenda up on them so they didn't know. They know what our agenda is. They know why we're talking to them. They know we want to see them naked. They're not stupid, right? So...
Well, that's the whole implied subcommunication of approaching a woman. Hey,
well it is. They know why we're approaching them. It's not because we need directions or we want to know what time it is. We could ask anybody.
I'd never want to see your body naked.
I don't want to see your breasts.
No,
not that.
No.
So I had to get over that one as well. It's kind of like, just shut up and fuck me. Once a woman's ready to go, anything we do other than putting our penis in her vagina is a major disappointment for her. That was a big learning experience for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And the previous title, even though it was technical, I love it because you just said tension. And I love the whole topic of tension. I could talk about that for days.
Yeah, that is a whole nother interview we could do.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. I love, you got such a varied experience and so much knowledge to give, and I really appreciate it. And I want you to share, I know you got a lot of resources for the men, from books to Integration Nation, which, plug a commercial, man. Let's put it out there. Give me a flashing sign. We'll put it right here.
There we go. Where this, you got the cup. If they want to reach me, drglover.com, drglover.com. It's got, my courses, my podcasts, my workshops. I love doing workshops. I do them here. Get about 8, 9, 10 guys here in the office here in Puerto Vallarta. My wife makes us enchiladas or ceviche. She's a good cook. And so all that's at drglover.com. Integration Nation, I see my mission, my purpose, why I'm here, is to build community for men. And my desire is to give every man on this planet who wants to be in a men's program, who wants community with men, who wants a tribe, a place to find it. So I launched Integration Nation a year ago, July 2023. So we've been out for a year. Several hundred men around the world. Once a month, we have a guest speaker. I'm on a call every Thursday, either teaching a lesson, doing a AMA, or interviewing guests. You've been on there. Guys are still... Somebody posted on the forum today, who was that guy, bald, into embodiment, that's Brian. So somebody was asking about you. Mark Manson was on, just a month ago. Orion Taraban was on a couple weeks ago. Dr. Robert Augustus Masters, has been on there. I think you know him. Dr. Warren Farrell's been on with us. John Weiland's been on. So, I get to interview some great people. Coming up, Dr. Aziz is coming on. Preston Smiles is coming on. Just, a lot of just great people. So I'm just trying to build community for men. We're in the midst of a major transition, I was telling you, just this week, moving to a new platform. I expect it's going to be like herding cats, but, I think we're as prepared as we can be. But, if I get another good 20 years on this planet, that's what I want to do, is keep building community for men, because we men need it. We need it desperately. a whole other subject, but we need community. And I love that you're building community. You're teaching men life skills that they need to feel competent, to feel meaningful in life. So, I love that we get to team up and do this work together.
So do I. And, I definitely love to work with you anytime. And I really appreciate your coming on the podcast. And I really appreciate you're just an authentic human being and an honest human being. And that's really what this is about, is getting people that really care on this channel, that aren't just here for the buck, but really want to change lives. And I love that you said another 20 years, and you made me think of Bob Proctor. And gonna teach till the day I go out. That's the way it goes. Wayne Dyer, Bob Proctor. We're lucky we're in a profession.
Warren Buffett's still making money in his 90s. Does he need more money? No, he does it for the love of it.
It's for the love of helping and being and giving. Yeah. So, anyways, I know you got to get back to the things. It's been close to 2 hours, I'm sure. I think I can see it there. So again, thank you for being on the show.
It's always great to hang out with you. Let's do some more in person in the very near future. Very, very good memories of hanging out with you down in Miami Beach and watching you, teach embodiment. So let's do it again soon.
Well, I also just bought a property in Tulum, so I'll be out in Mexico at some point.
Really?
So.
Going all spiritual, huh?
Yeah. Well, I bought it in an eco community, so they're building it out. Former people that built Ferrari are building the whole neighborhood. So I built the bodies for Ferrari. Yeah. So you have to come down and see it. And I got to come down there and see Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, come down to Puerto Vallarta. Everybody call it PV. Everybody has a hard time pronouncing it. PV.
Go down to PV.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping to get over to Playa del Carmen area early next year. So that and Tulum are, they're neighbors. So maybe we can hook up.
That would be perfect, man. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show, and have a beautiful day. Say hi to your wife for me too.
I'll go do that right now. Hopefully, there's some good food waiting when I walk out there.
Take care.
Take care, Brian.